Hey everyone, I'm super excited today to have with us a very special guest for Founder Stories. Today we have the absolute honor to host our dear friend Lotan. Lotan is a GP and co-founder of the phenomenal venture capital firm called Growth Ventures, and I highly advise you to go check them out. They have invested in some wonderful companies. But besides Growth Ventures, Lotan is also an incredible all-around A+ guy. He is recently the father to a beautiful child, so Mazel Tov. He's also a great husband, from what I'm told, and he is a good friend. So, Lotan, what I am super excited about today is not only to hear how he got into venture, which is a very unconventional path, but also to hear how he becomes a better man every single day. What he shows up with in the morning, what are his first thoughts, and how he goes about thinking of impact and how he's going to make this world a better place. So, Lotan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Ephraim. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
You're welcome, and it's an absolute honor. So, first of all, I want to wish you publicly Mazal Tov for your child a few months right now, so which is amazing. But
Yeah.
I want to start off this conversation. Last time when we spoke, you gave me a line. I mean, I made it into a line, a quote. You said decisions are not it's not about the outcome. It's all about the analysis before decision. Why don't you take me through a decision, in your startup journey, in investments or something else, a decision is something that you recently changed your mind on and the process to coming to that decision, and then why you changed and why you changed it.
It's about a decision I changed my mind on after taking it, you mean?
Correct.
So, yeah, first, I mean, just explain my quote. I'm just saying that you should judge a decision not based on the result of the outcome of the decision, because if you want to be in the decision making business, and as an investor, that's actually what we do. It's we are making ourselves into a machines of taking decision all the time. You actually need to work on improving your decision making process, how you do the analysis before the decision. And if you have the right process in place at larger scale, you're just going to take better decisions, just more of a good decisions. And about a decision I changed my mind on, let's say something from my personal life. We just talked about my beautiful wife Natalie, and I think that I've I got married like in quite a later age than most of my friends. Not that late, but and when I was single for many years, I knew I wanted to find my significant other. But just the method of how do I do it, I always try to optimize it because it's all about this process. This is how I prepared my mind into it, and I would say that I made my list of things must have and must not have, and I think when I met Natalie, or when been introduced to Natalie, she was not exactly fitting the all criteria I had. So I think one of the rules of decision making is get out of your box and get out of your list and get out of your framework, because reality is never exactly like your framework. So I changed my mind, thank God, and now I'm with her and we're very happy together. So um, I think that's going to be my example.
Wow, amazing. Now, first of all, thank God you did do that. Um, I'm almost like then what advice do you have for dating for other singles that are that are older, that are getting their own way? Maybe we should focus on dating for a second.
So I think that listen to yourself listen to yourself and enjoy the journey almost as much as you're like setting your eyes for the right target. Is about like constant improvement. Always improve your, I would say, selection system. Always try to improve yourself to be either a more appealing target for the significant other, and just be better future, I don't know, husband or wife or whatever. And always try to think, what did I do wrong? And is my North Star still in the right place or not? So having this as a very iterative process, I think it really helps you. And I would say that a lot of people around me got together where they're like soulmate in the age of, I don't know, like 20, 21, 22. And when I was like, around these ages, I felt like, oh, lucky them. They found the right thing at the right time. Now, when I have a more perspective of more years on the road, they say like maybe they not necessarily did the right decision. So yeah, there is no like right age for these things. You just have to be ready at all point in time, just in case you run into the right person.
That's so interesting. And I think the second point you mentioned, I think is actually so on spot. Where I'm going to reframe it, but essentially what you said was that make yourself into the person you want to date. So a lot of times we're always focusing on the outside, I mean the external, the other person. But reframe it inside towards you and become the person who you want to become, that someone will want to date you. And if you become that type of person, right? Positivity attracts positivity, energy attracts energy. Automatically people will become and be attracted to you.
I agree 100%, and that's also a lot of the way we are working with founders. In Rogue, we are typically are like day one investors. We're investing in a company even sometimes before they know they are a company. Maybe it's like two people and a dream, right? And I think that from our like lesson learned is about how do you make it work? It's about how do I become the best partner for them? How do I become like the best complementary part for them to be in a better place in their journey? And every startup is a different snowflake. They're not going to be one solution fits all. So you have to be very versatile. You have to always try to adapt yourself. And you really have to know who you are and who you are not. And that's, by the way, that's where GP partnerships come in very handy, because there are people I'm going to meet and say like, oh, they're amazing people, but maybe not the right people for me, or I'm not the right person for them. But hey, here's my partner. She's great, or he's great, and come and maybe connect with them. And I think that that's the right way of building a very flexible organization, a flexible mindset to always keep building the partner you want to be. And I think also once you're working with your like when I'm with my wife, we just two of us in the room. The advantage in a VC partnership that I have the founders, I have my relationship with them, and I have my partners as like the weird uncles that always like shoving their nose into our relationship. It's like, hey, you know what? Maybe we should be more here, more that. And I think that's very, very helpful as long as they have the right intention. They come from a very rich background and a very diversified one, and can help us from a lot of the failure modalities that every relationship have along like a very long-term journey.
If I want to add upon that, as we're doing the comparison between relationships and startups, I think I think I've learned, and I've heard this from other founders and other investors too, that they have learned more about business from reading non-business books, like for example, relationship books specifically on how to conduct business, and actually reading business books that teach you how to conduct business. So you'll read a relationship book, which is going to talk all about communication. And you're going to learn so many things over there: how to deal with your co-founder, how to deal with how to deal with your team, how to conduct yourself with potential customers. And you learn so much about that, how to navigate the criticism and to provide constructive, feedback, and to handle our disagreements and conflicts. You learn so much about there, because at the end of the day, everybody is human, and everyone has emotions, and everyone has their own preconceived notions and biases and everything, and all that. So when you're building a startup and when you're with your co-founder, with your team, with the potential customers and everyone else, you have to learn how to navigate all that. So by focusing on how to really build up a relationship or how to navigate a relationship and reading all that, they said that it's benefited them so much more, and they've learned how to build companies from that.
Agree. And just to add up on your point, I think that sometimes people are confusing fundraising and think that fundraising is actually a sales kind of motion, and it's not. It's a dating kind of a practice. You're not trying to sell your dream. You're trying to find your right partner to fulfill your dream, and that's how you approach the meeting. This is what's the points you want to touch, how vulnerable you want to be, how deep you want this conversation to be. In sales, typically, I would say, besides like the I would not go into like med pick and how do you qualify leads. I'm just saying like most of the sales, it's like I don't really care like who is my customer. I just want them to pay me, right? Like I want to make sure that I'm doing like the right process, get the path of like less resistance, but is paying in the end of the year, end of the quarter, end of the month. That's typically like the most important point. When I'm finding an investor, especially in startups in early stage, and the journey going to be very long, you're going to be stuck with that guy in the same boat for a very long time. You better know who you're dealing with. So it's like two sides, like doing due diligence on each other. So it's not sales.
Yeah. So then, how did you make your way into venture? Um,
I would say that if we had like just a 2 minute podcast, I would just say like one word: coincidence. And as we have more time, I would say that I never knew what I want to be as an adult. And at the beginning, I think it was a negative thing for me because I always wanted to have like a dream. Some people want to be doctors, astronauts, I don't know, different things, and I just didn't have a clue. So and I was very curious about many different things, and I've realized that there is no such job as jack of all trades. So I just started to wander around, and I've been like in the Israeli like army, in the Israeli like Air Force intelligence, and it was very interesting. We did like very interesting stuff at quite a young age. But as I was technical in the very early years of my life, and my job there was half technical, half not, I realized that I don't want to spend all my life in front of a computer. I want to meet people. I want to do other stuff. And I had like some previous experience. Like I worked since I was like 15. I worked in a CD store, and that was my passion, like music and meeting people, recommending music. And I was like, maybe I want to do something with like have more passion and involved. But then I couldn't find it, and I took like a last resort kind of a selection. I tried to think what I'm going to study in university, and I crossed like almost everything. Ended up in law school, and knowing that I'm never going to be a lawyer, but some person told me that in law school I'm going to have a lot of time to think, and I don't have to show up in classes. It's like perfect, let's do that, and it really allowed me to keep like on my journey of curiosity of trying to see how the world works. So I read about everything, and at that time I was bartending, working in Israeli parliament, working in my friend's startups. I ended up even in consulting in the end of my school, like in the management consulting in Israeli firm in telecom. And then again, not knowing where I'm going to go, and I thought like, okay, I'm going to keep like not knowing and keep like the ball rolling. Let's do how like the most expensive vacation someone can afford himself, like MBA. Let's go for at least a couple of years someplace and meet interesting people, network around, and keep thinking. But then I was very lucky because I tried to meet like experienced and smart guys and ask them if they have some good word for me, and maybe they know someone who knows someone who knows someone that might need someone like me. And one of these people was one of my youth like legends and idols, a guy named Dov Moran. Israelis knows him. He's like the poster entrepreneur of Israel. He like made the first like big exit M systems. Dov is like well known as the inventor of the USB thumb drive. And when I grew up, it was in Kochav Yair. Kfar Saba was the nearest like big, I wouldn't call it city, town or small city, and M Systems was there, and it was like, oh my god, like it was the Israeli Steve Jobs, and he was willing to meet me. Why? I don't know until today, but we had very good chemistry because I was kind of like released because I was not tense because I thought like no way ever going to want someone like me, so I just be myself, and it actually worked, and we had very good chemistry. And you say, you know what, maybe you can come and work for me, and and I said like yes 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 like before he changes his mind, and I even like you want to think about it. I said like don't think like just give me any sum of like money. Don't take any financial risk on me, and we're gonna do well. And eventually he was convinced. He gave me a very big opportunity. And Dov was a very unique about the way he at that time was like double my age, right? But and he had experience of growing up so many of the Israeli high tech like top leaders and founders and executives and investors. And what he did, he just threw me, into a pool full of sharks on a daily basis. And you know what? I learned how to swim. And what we did, it was just a time when he transformed back from being like a serial entrepreneur into like more of a super angel. And we sat in a very beautiful moshav. It's like a very, I would say, out in the country, in the middle of like an orange like grove. And we invested like small amounts in the very first days of companies. And we've been like very involved, very hands-on, helping them to form their companies, fulfill their idea. And that was about 10 years ago, right? And then like 1 year in, I said like, hey Dov, you know what? Maybe we can invest other people's money as well. And then he said, no way, I never going to be a venture capitalist. He had a very bad taste from working with venture capitalists as an entrepreneur all his life. It's like, no, these guys are not adding value. These guys are just focusing on their next vacation. Da, da, da. And it took me 18 months to understand what I actually suggested. What is a venture capital industry? What is a venture capitalist means? What's a fund with a strategy? And then trying to convince him to change his mind. So in these 18 months, I did like the very, I would say, real life investigation, meeting everyone who was willing to meet me, asking all the questions possible about what is a VC. And this mental exercise ended up as a very basic foundation of Grove. And then 18 months in, it's like, you know what? He went in and wrote a book about entrepreneurship called 100 Doors, by the way, very recommended. When he went, it was in the mountains of Switzerland. When he came back, he said, like, you know what? Let's do it. And you can be my partner. So, and that's how Grove started. This is how I became a VC. And if you think that that's the end of the story, no, that's only the beginning. Because so for us, starting a fund was what usually for other people is like starting a company, right? Two founders, very good plan, and starting just on our own and doing every mistake possible. Then you realize that your original plan was not so good, you were not so smart, ended up in what is Grove is today. Until today, eventually we raised like 3 funds, managing over $500 million. We're now like 4 partners in the fund. It's with an Ashkenazi that been with us for like since the end of Fund 1, and Lior Handelsman that joined us like 3 years ago. Both of them are great, and we're like almost 20 people in the whole firm, and we invested in something like 30 companies. And the most important part, we really, really love what we are doing.
Wow. What a story. What a story. I mean, there's so many lessons over there, and there's so many ways how to break this down. I think, the first thing, which is really cool, was the fact that, you didn't have a set path and what you wanted to do in life. So you were curious, and you had the ability in order to get experience from multiple industries, everything from a bartender, consultant, to working in the Knesset, in the parliament, The bartender must have been interesting. I think that probably made you the best, it prepared you the best for VC because as a bartender, you get to hear everyone else's problems. Um, so there's that aspect of the curiosity, which I think, and trying to get experience from everyone. I think there's also the amazing thing of taking the chance. I mean, I think the second amazing thing is not having expectations. When you met Dove, thinking that, oh, he'll never be my partner. So he didn't come with expectations that you had a desired outcome. But I was like, okay, let me go meet this my childhood hero, and that's it. And I think the third thing, which is amazing, which I'm listening which I'm hearing, is the fact of taking the chance and opportunity when you had it. So when you met him the first time and you convinced him, saying, hey, no, I will do anything, whatever it takes. Even if you want me to clean the toilet, I will clean the toilet just so I can be in your presence and learn from you. Taking the chance and opportunity, whatever it may be. I think those three key points are so important over there.
Yeah, I would say that taking opportunities, it's a must for every founder of every business, every entrepreneur. That people tend to talk about luck, and I will not go into it, but there's the four modalities of luck, and you can read about it. I think it's very interesting. You can search it online, but I think it varies a lot about two things. One, the preparation you had before your lucky event, and how active you've been in actually taking this luck just been handled. And I think that it's part of my nature was, again, I'm working since the day I know myself for no particular reason, just because that's a way for me to keep exploring, keep expanding my knowledge, and not taking anything like too hard. It's about knowing that failing is part of the journey, and that's, I don't know. I've been like very lucky about being born um, with the capabilities of like handling all these things.
Right. So it's interesting. You mentioned like being born with the capabilities. Is an interesting point. But I like what you said that there's two components to luck. There's the preparation for it, because a lot of times we think everything is serendipity and it just happens like that. I mean, but it's all about making sure you prepare yourself in order to take advantage of the opportunity, which is such an important thing. Um,
Yeah.
so what are then, let's pivot it, let's go towards, when you're evaluating startups, for example, what are those intangibles that, your secret sauce your secret sauce that you look for in a founder?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I can tell you that I realized that the answer for me and the answer for any other investor are not going to be the same answer because of the partnership nature of the work that we are doing. Each one of us, like, they have amazing founders out there in the world that did the great things that I would never want to invest in them, to partner with them. Why? Because I don't think that we're gonna get along that well. But I think that once I know to find the right people, I'm taking a lot of proud of, like, I think they really I wouldn't say like me, they like working with me, and I think they also like me. But we are very helpful and involved, and they invite us many times to the most critical decision points in their journey. And for me, it's about understanding who is the right leader that actually can build the future business. As part of what we are doing in Grove, we are trying to be a bit different. It's also a part of who we are. I think Dove has it, and I definitely have it, kind of like being a misfit. And I think we take it as a very deep value of who we are and who we want to partner with, because we don't feel comfortable that much in the mainstream. When I started, in the venture capital industry, I said like, oh my God, these guys are so experienced, smart, some of them lucky. I can beat them on those things, but maybe I can be different. And then if I'm different and I'm right, I can maybe succeed in my business, in my own path. And we're trying to find these founders. that look at reality a bit different. Maybe they have something to prove. Maybe they are very curious in their journey, and they have these truths they found within themselves. And typically, these guys are the ones who um, they have this, I would say, positive energy that we just talked about. Like when we talk, we're gonna talk with people that surrounded them along their journey about the life journey. People kind of like them, flocked into them, want to help them. People like to open doors for them, like to help their chances and luck. And these are people that actually are very curious and very investigative about the businesses and the verticals they want to disrupt. If you're going to challenge them with a question, they're not going to say like, yeah, you know, don't know anything. They're actually going to be very interested to ask like why, or they've been so curious about their business to already have the answer because they just thought about this question like ages ago. They can't sleep at night because they think about their business. And these are, I think, the right people that we like to partner with. And I think over the time, I've realized that there are some areas when I have like more of affinity to, and in areas that I think I can be more helpful in starting the business, this like 0 to 1 area, and that's where I spend most of my time.
So, if I could boil it down a little bit to make it easier for people to understand, one was, I guess, first of all, being a nice person. Just being a nice person. That's one.
Yeah,
I think the second thing was, I think, being extremely curious. And the third thing was, I guess, a certain type of having naiveness, being naive.
it's about yeah, I wouldn't say naiveness. It's about like having the right balance between being a bit paranoid and with megalomania, like thinking like I really think like everybody failed and I can do it, and at the same time like, oh my god, we're not gonna make it, we're not gonna make it, we're not gonna make it. I have to work my ass off. Like this is the right balance I'm trying to find within founders. And also there's like the leadership and team chemistry aspect, the people that get along with other people. And we're investing eventually not only in single people, we're investing in teams. So the team chemistry also means a lot for us.
I think that's such a point that a lot of people underestimate. One of the reasons why companies do fail is because that founder relationship between the team. And if they're not able to get along, obviously that had a triple effect on the rest of the company. If they haven't built a team yet, then it's obviously would the company never take off before that. But that's such an important thing that people fail to estimate so much more. Like, give you an example. I was talking to a team that's starting tomorrow. I was talking to a founding team that's starting the company very soon. And I asked them, like, first of all, did you create a contract agreement between you two? Did you do the equity split? Did you work on all the fundamentals, the hard conversations before? Because when you start a company, it's very exciting. Oh my gosh, we're going to build this company. You have all your dreams and it could become a unicorn in 2 years. And you fail to take care of the necessary components because why? There's too much excitement involved, and you're living in a land where in a pink cloud where you think everything's going to continue on the way it's going right now. And so therefore you push off the hard conversations as much as possible. Right? So the only time you're going to have the hard conversation when an investor is going to approach you, someone else is going to approach you. And what happens is when you have that hard conversation 6 months down the line, you realize, wait, our visions are misaligned. Our communication is not as good as we thought it was, right? Because now you have to have that difficult conversation. And it's such an important thing to have that thing, because those difficult conversations actually build up the family relationship too.
100%. And I think I would prefer some founders that have some previous background, and not necessarily a positive one. It's like in one of these like experiences, it can be even in the same like startup journey when someone says like, I'm going to be the leader, aka CEO, or like I'm taking the wheel, and he said like, I believe we should go right, and they go right, and there's a wall. It's like, you know what, it's okay, like I was wrong, but this time I know, I'm sure it's left, and then they hit the wall. Founders that went through that journey and still like the other team like say like to the CEO like, yeah, keep going with the wheel, we know it, like eventually gonna take it to the safe harbor. This is exactly the team I want to be a partner of. And it's also about like the right mentality and DNA of the organization and how they want to build it and how they think about these things. And also, I think entrepreneurship is about understanding the boundaries of your comfort zone and keep challenging it. Your personal growth and your company growth is in the end of your comfort zone because by the time you know how to manage a very functional organization of 50 people, hey, that doesn't matter anymore because you need to grow your organization to 100 people. Once you know how to sell to 5 customers, like no one cares. Like, hey, get us 10 customers. That's part of this, like, I would say, even sometimes like crazy VC model that say, like, we're gonna like buy an option in your company, buy shares in a very high valuation because we believe that in 2 years are going to be this like decathlon unicorn, whatever, going to take the whole industry. Most of the businesses don't do these things, but how you're going to grow, 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 and that's not adequate for people who want to stay in the comfort zone and their energy and their force is by knowing everything.
So one of the points you just mentioned, I actually want to like touch upon for a second. You mentioned the concept of a VC investing at a startup at whatever valuation because they believe it's going to become a decacorn, which essentially is a polar opposite of any type of handling of risk. And it's this, I guess, optimism, which is at the end of the day, I think, investing boils down to human emotions. You have the pendulum, which is like totally positive or it's totally negative. Where usually it should be smack in between. But this concept of, and we saw it the past 2 years, where investors like, yeah, growth at all costs, no matter what. I'm gonna, if I don't invest right now, there's the FOMO, right, the personal emotion side. But they had this belief that everything would continue to go up as much as possible.
Yeah, so here's where the paranoid part kicks in. I can tell you that luckily, within my portfolio companies, um, we were not in the grow at all cost mode. Never. We always believed in this like hard journey. With its success means it's a very gradual, like step by step kind of thing. All steps, by the way, have to be positive. Like you have to grow. You like that's you're getting like one step closer to your end celebratory result. But have some sanity. And FOMO, that's great in many things in life, but not in strategy. And growth at all costs, like someone told me, growth at all costs, that's a very good strategy for cancer cells, not for any real business. You need to understand why you're growing and where you're growing. And um, the way I think about it is about a founder, you have to balance about what you have and what you want to have and understanding this very fine balance about promising and executing. It's very, very important that you can't build a big business without being very good at both.
So then, how do you build yourself up as a VC, educating yourself, or even your way of dealing with setbacks and failure?
In a way, I think not trying to tie up all the parts of our conversation, I'm trying to be the partner that I want to partner with. I'm super curious about my business. I've never stopped learning about everything there is to learn. I'm talking with every people like willing to pick up the phone and just and have a coffee with me. I talk with founders, with investors. I never stop reading. I always look for feedback from the founders and the people surrounding me of how can I be a better partner for them in the coming like journey, and always trying to understand like where the other side is going. For example, the first time one of my companies like sold, I don't know, got to like 150 people and trying to double that to 300. It's like, oh my God, I never been in these places before. Let's talk with people that actually help company in those domains. And then I can be helpful also in these areas. And the same thing happened, by the way, in my first ever investment, taking the company from 0 to 1. It's about learning, 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 adapting, 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 and improving, improving, improving. And that's the way I've become, I think, a better investor and have been trying to create a very close circle of honesty, vulnerability with founders. And I would always ask them, hey, how can I help you and B, how can I be better partner for you in every part of the journey?
It's amazing to see that sort of the curiosity and being naive is still what drives you. Because when you entered the business, you had to differentiate yourself because you didn't come from a typical standard, venture capital pathway or approach. You came, you didn't get your MBA, didn't work at any other previous startups, didn't do any other type of thing that would set you on the path of becoming a venture capitalist. And I think it's actually there's data somewhere that shows that if you look at all the really successful VCs, most of them didn't come from the typical traditional path of business or anything else, because you do have to have a sense of being extremely curious, and grow and do what it takes to actually help us founder. And also when you have the ability, like you mentioned before, you're able to be a bartender, work at Knesset, and a consultant. When you have that all that wide, I guess, experience across multiple different industries, you're able to really look at things and approach problems or give solutions from a very different approach of having that experience in multiple different things.
Yeah, I think that being a very good um, early stage investor, and I hope I will be. Like, I think like currently we're on the right path, but it's too early to determine. In 5 years, I will know it. In if 5 years ago I've been a good early stage investor, but I think that to be there, you have to develop an own like independent thinking. And the way to be independent is about not working in patterns, not to try to copy what other people do, not to copy and think what other people think. You're trying to be different. And how do you do just different? Think about it like a machine. Gather your own independent data set, build your own algorithm of how to analyze that, and then you come with the different insights out of this data. And it takes me like I like to invest either in areas that I think they're like underhyped, that people like just look over them, in other areas when I think that I'm the first one. And I said like maybe I'm stupid, but at least like I'm the best in the category because I'm the only one who's working here. And that's got me like to be like a very early investor in trust and safety with active fence, in primary care AI with Navina, in a lot of the developer stuff we did like with Rapid API and Lumigo and in Zero. Now with another company that I have not published yet. Now I'm doing an investment in ESG and climate. Like we like to be first, like ahead of the market. That's where our passion lies, and always trying to understand like what is even the comfort zone of the industry, and again to challenge that. What's going to be the next frontier, and that's I think the right way to go. And even like looking at the day to day, I started in a VC like quite young. I'm now like 10 years in this like realm, but I'm only like 38, and I want to be active even in like 10, 20, 30 years down the road, right? And the only way to do it is to really enjoy what you're doing and understanding like my traits and the way that my mind works. It's only if I'm curious and interested and like keep like working on new stuff all the time. And that's the beauty about venture capital. It helps you. Like it's part of my like validation journey about founding Grove. I met this like GP and he told me like if you want to make money, go and be a hedge fund manager. We're gonna make lots of money, but in a VC, you're not gonna lose money, right? You're gonna make money, but I think that the special perk is about being in a very inner circle of the smartest, most innovative guys in the world, and help them to design the future. And I can't think of any more interesting life than that.
Yeah, it's such a special thing to be part of such a community and to really help companies grow and support the best people and being able to work on multiple different types of things. But as you mentioned that you focus on first check, how do you, very interesting, because curiously, recently I've been getting involved a lot in like assessing risk and like evaluating risk. How do you evaluate risk?
Yeah. So risk is a big part of our model about our industry, especially in the early stage. Um, the like not succeeding or failing, you can call it like risk. It's a big part of what we are doing. It's about knowing how to fail. I think that people, I think by now everybody gets it. It's the power law of like early stage VC. The risk is about when you're successful, to not be very, very, very successful. Not being a part of it like an outlier company that returns your whole fund. The rest of that going to be less meaningful, and I'm just talking about value, financial value perspective. On a personal basis, risk is taking the wrong decision and partnering with the wrong team and doing the wrong thing, and not like being doing what I like to do, like selecting the wrong people to work with, even within the fund. I think that when balancing between people risk, market risk, and product and technology risk, at early stage, we usually trying to be not wrong at all. A team trying to find the right markets and really like crossing our fingers and working very hard to help them with the third one, with the technology. And as we, a lot of our investments also in like in deep tech, sometimes we take a like tremendous technology risk, but we like it. We know, I think we kind of like develop our own system of how to underwrite all different risks and again, going back to the decision making part, this is what all our process is being designed to do.
So it all comes back to really, I mean, a lot of it goes back to creating that framework, like you mentioned, creating that framework, creating that decision process of how you come, the values of how you go about making decisions. Interesting.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I've just realized that as a founder of Grove and have this paranoia, and remember, like a founder should have megalomania and paranoia. So megalomania for me was at a very young age think that I can be a good VC. A paranoia means that I always think that our system should be adapted and improved, that everything going to be broken like next year. And I have this paranoia, founder paranoia side of me. So every process, every line in every agreement in Grove, everything in the method we're doing, I can tell you what exactly was there when we started, how it changed over time, what was the idea behind it, and why. Because and ask me again in 5 to 10 years, I would be very disappointed to understand that we actually have not changed it, because it have to be very adaptive.
All right, so then let me ask you, we're going to have this conversation again in 5 years, and we're going to have this conversation again in 10 years. There's no doubt in my mind. But, imagine us having this conversation in 5 years from now. How do you want Grove to look?
I want Grove to be a group of happy people working a lot of hours, but really, really enjoying what they're doing, being able to prove that we are backing the right set of founders that actually disrupted real industries, created a lot of value to the world, not only financial value, but actually created the right impact, that our investors are very happy with our performance, that we kind of like grew up the next generation of leaders within the fund, and that the best founders in Israel want to partner with us, and the founders that already backed want to come back and partner with us in their next fund. And I'm seeing already the trend that we are on the right path. But again, as a very paranoid founder, I always think like if we're not going to bring our A game next year as well, we're going to take like one step backwards. So we have to improve. And I always think that every year that Grove have to kind of like double our capabilities at all fronts. That's the only way of like moving is like forward.
It's like having that chip on your shoulder. That's constantly continue pushing you forward.
Yeah, having this beginner mentality, and I think that's part of the notion about the VC industry in Israel a decade ago when I got in, was that a lot of the VCs that were already around for like 10, 20 years didn't have this beginner mentality anymore. They had this like, oh, we already won, we already know what we're doing. And that's the reason I thought that I might have a chance. Because if I'm going to be hungrier, maybe sometimes I can even win.
Yeah. I guess when you show up thinking that you know it all and that you won already, you already lost. So, but showing up with that hunger, saying that you never know what way it's going to go, but you're going to show up as your best self every single day. That's the way to go.
Exactly. You're as good as your next investment.
Yeah, 100%. So then, what advice would you give to younger people? Because you went through that period of not sure what you wanted to do when you grew up, and you bounced around. And these days, people are still bouncing around. Nothing has changed. Maybe kids want to be bigger influencers these days, or they want to they're aiming for fame and power, which is a whole different conversation. But what advice would you give to young people that are going, post just right away graduating college right now, or the person that's 31, 32 that it was working at a company startup right now, maybe evaluate to start a startup or wants to jump into a job and they're confused? What advice do you give?
So it's not necessarily advice about how to be a VC. Okay, I would say that surround yourself with good people, and always try to give more than what you take. And surround yourself with people. This is their mentality too. That they're like, and actually, that even about your friends, your family, like who are the people that actually give, and who are the people that's more like take. Everybody like doing both, but who is doing like more? And by the way, that's what I saw in like my wife, like Natalie. Like I said, like yes, that's the right one. I try to build a community around you. And I think that's one of the things in the modern world that's kind of like being broken is they used to be in villages, and then villages are not there anymore. But try to build a community that's actually going to support you in your journey. And remember, there's like no up, like without a down. So if you're failing, if you're struggling, that's good. That's life lesson. And don't look for the easy path, because sometimes the shorter path is actually the longer path. And I would say that there's only also one thing, and I told that was mentioned in this like decision making book that we mentioned in our previous conversation about like thinking in bets. Something that she described there, and before the book was even written, like I think like 15 years ago, I kind of like I won't say developed the method because it's going to make it sound like academic, but it was very stupid and very basic for me. But when I was like 20 something and I had to take decisions but not knowing when I'm going to be as an adult, I always try to balance between like two things. I try to think for everything, every opportunity, every challenge, every selection is that the right thing for myself in a year from now? And is that the right thing for me in a decade from now? And the thing is, the me in 10 years from now, I don't know that guy. We come from the same background. We had the same mother. We shared the same experiences, but I don't know him. Maybe he's a great guy. I hope he's not like a douchebag. And I'm always trying to make his life a bit easier and a bit better. And I also take care of like the guy who is like me in a year from now. And if I'm gonna, so for the guy, for example, 10 years from now, I want to hustle around to build all the right infrastructure, open all the right doors for him, so that you're gonna have everything like served on a plate. But if I'm gonna also like stress myself too hard, I might go to like the bad places, and in a year from now, I'm not gonna be happy. So always like balancing with what's good for him and what's good for him. And again, I don't know these guys. Trying to guess that really helped me along all these decisions and this like imaginary time machine of trying to put yourself in the future. And that really helped me. And then that I think that all like these like I don't know quote unquote like advices it's a great like tools of how to help yourself of being set in the right journey with the right people with the right mindset.
Yeah. Wow. And each one of those things are so important. I think on the second to last point that you mentioned is also important because, it sort of resembles that a lot of times as human beings, what we do is we are measuring ourselves against our future ideals instead of how far we've come. So like you mentioned, like, yeah, in a decade, I want to be that person or whatever it may be. I want to have that type of goal. And we start measuring ourselves against that instead of thinking, wait, look how far I've come from the age of, let's say, 21 to the age of, 27 or whatever, wherever you may be holding in life. Look how far I've come and I've accomplished. Instead of saying, oh, I'm not there yet. I don't have that, or I didn't accomplish that yet. And then automatically you're going to fall into depression from there. So that's such an important point you mentioned there. Wow. What do you tell to the young kid or to the person right now that's looking to get into VC?
Um, be really, really curious. And if you want to be in VC, make sure that you're one of these guys that I just saw this like quote. I think I even like tweeted it from like a book called like No Red Lights for Mayan Patrick, like one of the veterans of the industry. And he said like I don't remember the exact quote, but he said like how do you know if you want to need to be like a founder or like a venture capitalist? It's like if you there's like an idea or a question that's interesting for you, you're like going through this like rabbit hole and keep reading and asking and reading and reading and reading. If you enjoy this journey, then this business is for you. If not, I don't think it's the right business for you. That's one. Two is try to learn the game before you actually start playing. Try to ask and spend time with whoever like willing to take the time to teach you. Like listen to podcasts, read the right books, meet people, network around, and try to be original, independent, and understand that you have to work really, really hard and for a long time before you even see like the first indication of success.
I absolutely love that. I love that. Wow. Lotam, I want to thank you. I've learned, I know we could talk for another 2 hours, no problem. And we could create a 3 hour podcast, but every time I get the opportunity and chance to speak with you, I truly, truly appreciate it because I always learn something else. I walk out much smarter. And I'm super grateful for this conversation that we had right now because I know not only have I benefited, but it's going to benefit thousands upon thousands of people, which is why we do things in order to create a bigger difference in this world, to make a bigger difference, and to inspire people to take action. So I want to thank you for sharing your wisdom. Um, I've taken a bunch of mental notes, and obviously I'm going to have to listen to this again to really implement them because at the end of the day, it's all about action. But I want to thank you, and obviously it goes without saying I'm here for your family, for Grove, and any way I possibly can be of help. So thank you, and thank you.
Thank you, Ephraim, and thank you for all these like really kind words. And I hope to be worthy of everything you just said. And I really hope that really listeners can take the right part out of it. And I hope I didn't like talk for too long and I didn't too much like talking around. And thank you for the opportunity. And I think that we really like it really got you to touch like the right points in this discussion, which is not what we usually talk when we are discussing this like VC founder or I don't know founding a business relationship kind of thing.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're absolutely welcome.